I'm Gold Derby editor Daniel Montgomery here with Jesse Plemons, who co-stars in The Power of the Dog as George Burbank, who marries the widow and clashes with his brother in 1920s Montana. Now, I know there was some back and forth as this film was being put together, in terms of casting and scheduling, where your roles were concerned. So how did this film ultimately come to you and Kirsten Dunst?
Well, I met Jane very early on, before there was a start date, or I think she had just met Benedict, but didn't tell me who it was that she was meeting with, but was very excited about it. And at that point, she had no idea when we were going to start. I loved the script and loved the idea of getting to work with Jane Campion. And then I became attached to something else, and it seemed like the scheduling wasn't going to work. Paul Dano stepped in, and then Elizabeth Moss had to fall out for scheduling conflicts, and Kirsten stepped in, and then Paul Dano fell out, and then it circled all the way back around to me again, and I was available and said yes, most definitely.
And what did you think of this character, George, when you read the script? What struck you about him that really excited you to play?
Well, he's sort of a very graceful punching bag, which I found interesting. The way that he has managed to deal with such a difficult person for so long. And the fact that it didn't turn him into something awful, the fact that he was able to sort of maintain a dignity, and I think even compassion for his older brother, whom is unable to really express his true self, and he's sort of heartbroken, and I think George knows a part of Phil that no one else does, and knows where this anger and rage is coming from, and somehow keeps his eye on that rather than the constant barrage of insults and attacks.
And working with Jane Campion, who's the latest in a line of impressive filmmakers who you've worked with: Paul Thomas Anderson, Scorsese, Spielberg, Charlie Kaufman. Are filmmakers like a really big part of what draws you to a film? The opportunity to work with someone with these really unique points of view.
Definitely. It's sort of the biggest factor, I think. It's always been exciting to find yourself in and amongst like ridiculously talented people, and to sort of try and soak up all of that knowledge. And so, that was, it's I never really consciously lay out what sort of factors contribute to making decisions. It always just seems sort of obvious, and like there's very little thought involved, and it's that, and the part and the script and all that. But if there's a great director involved, most times it's just an easy yes, whatever you want.
And working with Benedict Cumberbatch as your brother in the film, as you mentioned, your character is sort of this graceful punching bag who is dealing with so much of his abuse, and there's so much history between the two. What was it like working with him to kind of create that very lived-in sense of this relationship that has a lifetime of stuff attached to it?
Well, first off, he's so incredible and so devoted and committed to finding the truth, and also tackling this laundry list of sort of skills that this character has to be a master at. And so it was really amazing to watch that. But I think we were really fortunate in having this few weeks of rehearsals before we started, because we were really able to sort of comb through the book and take all of any information from there, but also kind of fill in the blanks, and sort of decide for ourselves their history and sort of what was going to give us the most to play with. And kind of, it's such a fine line, because it is really complicated. And like I said, he has been on the receiving end of this sort of verbal abuse for years and years, but he doesn't leave when he could. There's plenty of money, he could leave, but he doesn't. And so finding a history that supported that was really interesting. And like I said, just having that time beforehand was really, really helpful.
And then to see him find Rose, Kirsten Dunst's character, there's this beautiful scene where he tells her how good it feels not to be alone. And you get the sense of what he's lived through with his brother all these years. You being, and Kirsten Dunst being real life partners. Did that help you kind of develop that sense of, like these people are an oasis to each other?
Yeah, and I mean, there's something that there's a part of it that I feel like you can work for and create, like that is the goal as an actor. But there was sort of a built-in luxury that we had, where it's like I look in her eyes and it sort of immediately takes me somewhere. And it really helped, I think, having that underneath it all. And just it was just such a treat to be able to, I mean, especially that scene on the hill, to be able to experience that with her. And it would it definitely was a moment where it felt like if George stepping into a new world, And
that scene, is just one of many that really showcases just the beautiful scenic visuals of the film. You filmed in New Zealand. What was it like shooting there? And did that sort of natural environment, help you kind of get into the mood of this story and these characters?
It did. I mean, the landscape itself sort of tells a story, but then on top of that, the unbelievable production design by Grant was, I remember was just driving up to the ranch, seeing it for the first time, and then walking up to the barn. The barn felt like it had been there for 50 years, and all of those elements help in sort of snapping you into a world. And but yeah, New Zealand definitely lives up to its reputation for being one of the most beautiful places in the world.
And this was one of many productions over last year that was interrupted because of the COVID pandemic. Like what was it like to have to take that pause, and what were those sort of intervening months like?
I would assume it was similar to most everyone, fear, panic, sort of all of that. We were very fortunate to all be together, and in New Zealand, where it wasn't quite as widespread. And it was. I think by the time we eventually went back to work, so much had happened, and like I said, you spend all this time obsessing over the news and the state of things, and I think we had no idea when or even if at a certain point we were going to finish the film. And you know, we had about 3 weeks left of some pretty intense scenes, and up until that point, it felt like it could be something really amazing. So I think once we finally, it was only about 3 months or so, and we were back shooting, but I think we were all just so happy to be able to do what we love, and happy to finish telling the story. So.
And in addition to the book and of course Jane Campion's screenplay, was there other research and preparation that you did to kind of get into and understand this character living in 1920s Montana?
Well, the book was such an incredible resource, and so well sort of gave an accurate depiction not only of life in America at that time, but specifically this world in Montana. And I did end up sort of going down a Thomas Savage rabbit hole, because his work beyond Power of the Dog is incredible. But I read a lot about him because he is such a huge part of the story. He's sort of biographical. I think as the story goes, he's sort of a version of Peter in Power of the Dog. So I did a lot of digging on him.
And now that this film has been rolling out through festivals, and getting very strong reviews for all of your work, what has it been like to have people finally see this film, like given all the uncertainty around it from COVID at the time, and now things starting to open back up, but still sort of being in the middle of the pandemic? And what's it like getting to present this film to people finally?
It's pretty it's pretty overwhelming at times, honestly. I've been working, so I've missed a large part of the publicity tour that they've all been on. But I've been blown away by the people's reactions. Even during our press junket day, there was a woman who just was so moved by the film, and it's what you're always hoping for, that people are really deeply affected by it. So you feel very grateful to have been a part of it and to have been able to finish. And now that people are loving it, it's just that's sort of exactly what you hope for. That's sort of the goal.
And what do you hope that people take away from this story? As they more and more see it, it'll be streaming on Netflix on December, early December. What do you hope impact it has on audiences?
Well, I always have a tough time with this question, because I feel like whatever they take away, that's what it should be. But I guess what I'm always looking for is something truly human, and I think Jane has a knack for capturing life in a really unique and poetic way that not many filmmakers can in that specific way. And she's so connected to each character and puts so much thought and love into each character. And so I hope people see that, see the humanity in it, because that's what I feel like always draws me to a film.
Well, I want to congratulate you on your work in The Power of the Dog, and thank you so much for talking with me about it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Good talking to you. Take care.